Hi, this is Mr. Elling, and welcome to the video about absolute value inequalities in two variables. What I'm going to do for this lesson is split it actually up into two videos. So I'm going to do one where we solve for y, and the other one is where we're actually going to graph our absolute value inequality. So we are given a sample problem right here, and we are asked to solve for y on this problem. So we have our absolute value portion, which is these bars that are right here. That's our absolute value. And we also have our y variable and our x variable. So that's where the two variables come in. So if we are asked to solve for y, really what we're trying to do is get it into the standard form of the absolute value equation, which is y equals a times the absolute value of bx minus h plus k. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, this is an equation. This is an inequality. It doesn't matter. Treat it the exact same way. The only thing that's different is if we divide or multiply by a negative, we have to flip our inequality. But our inequality can just stay here, and we can add, subtract, multiply, divide on the left side and the right side, just as we would a normal equation. So don't get freaked out by the inequality. Just treat it like you would an equation. So let's start. So what we need to do is isolate y. We need to get things away from y. So what we can do first, what I can see is that we can subtract 2 from the left side. So if we subtract 2 over here on the left, we have to subtract 2 on the right. Anything we do on the left, we have to do on the right, just like an equation. So since we're subtracting 2, we don't need to flip our sign, but now we can rewrite our equation as negative 2y. And since we subtracted 2, plus 2 minus 2 equals 0, so these cancel out, and that leaves us with minus this absolute value of x plus 3 is greater than negative 2. All right, so now we can keep going. We still don't have y by itself. We need to get y by itself. Well, we have this absolute value term here. So working with absolute values, we want to keep this as a whole term. Do not alter anything within these absolute value bars, because once you start doing that, you lose information from the inequality and then things get kind of wacky. But we can add and subtract this entire absolute value term as a whole. All right, so right now we're subtracting it. It's negative 2y minus absolute value of x plus 3. Well, we can add it to the left side. So if we add it over here, we get x plus 3, absolute value. Well, since we added it to the left, we have to add it to the right. So we're going to get negative 2 over here, and then we're going to add the absolute value part. So it's going to be plus the absolute value of x plus, excuse me, just erase that, x plus 3 absolute value. All right, so this over here is going to cancel. So what we're going to be left with now is this negative 2y, and it is going to be greater than everything that we have here. So negative 2 plus the absolute value of x plus 3. All right, so now y still isn't by itself. We're still attached to this negative 2. Remember, this is negative 2 times y, and we need to get y still by itself because that's what our standard form looks like. So finally, what can we do? We can divide by negative 2 to unhook it from the y. So if we divide the left by negative 2, we need to divide the right by negative 2. And when we divide by negative 2, we need to divide everything by negative 2, the entire side by negative 2. Okay, we can't just divide the negative 2 by negative 2 or just the absolute value. We need to divide everything. All right, so I know what you're saying. Well, how can we do that? Well, I'll walk you through. So we know this left side is going to cancel out. So negative 2 divided by negative 2 is just 1. So it leaves us with just y on the left. Now, we divided by a negative number, so we need to flip the inequality. So we flip it now to less than, all right? And then finally, we need to divide -2 into both of our terms here. So -2 divided by -2 is going to be a +1, so it's going to be 1 plus, now we can divide the absolute value of x plus 3 by -2 by literally just writing the absolute value of x plus 3 over -2. All right, so that's all we need to do here. We don't need to simplify this anymore. If -2 divided evenly into these terms, do not worry about it. Just leave it over -2 or whatever you're dividing by. Otherwise, you will, again, will lose information. The negative gets tricky with simplifying. So one more step though, since I know this doesn't quite look like our standard form that we have up here, we can rearrange this a little bit. So when we divide by a negative, that's really the same as multiplying by 1/2. Same if we divided by 4, that's the same as multiplying by 1/4. So we can rearrange this a little bit so it looks a little cleaner and looks more like the standard form. So what it's going to look like then is, actually I'm going to write it over here since I have more work, or excuse me, more room. So it says y is going to be less than, all right, since dividing by -2 is the same as multiplying by -1/2, it's going to be -1/2 times the absolute value of x plus 3 and then this plus 1 here. All right, since it's a positive on the left, we can add it over here, +1. And then now it looks it to be in our standard form. So y is less than -1/2. That's our a value. B is going to be 1 because we don't have a coefficient in front, but this is the same as 1x minus h. So our h here is actually going to be -3. And our k is going to be 1.